Hello, my name is Roisin and welcome back to my channel. So I have two videos on this channel where I talk about setting up a reading journal, and I will leave those linked in the cards above if you are interested in checking them out. But with complete honesty, I have never kept those reading journals up for more than a month or two. I have struggled with the habit forming, I guess, that is required to keep up a reading journal. I did some research about how other people keep notes on their books, and I've decided this month to take notes on absolutely every single thing that I read for a month in four-ish somewhere, different types of note-taking methods. So if you want to see the videos that I watched for this video, there will be a playlist linked in the description, possibly in the cards as well, where you can see what it was that I was researching. But the four methods that I came up with were, some people like to take annotations inside the books that they are reading. So they write on the pages, and they keep notes with tabs, various different methods for doing so. So pen and sticky tabs are the two things that I've got for this. The one thing that I foresee being an issue with me for this is that you can't write in library books, and you can't write on audiobooks, which are two of the major ways that I read. So I'm going to try this with the physical copies of books that I personally own, and see how I feel about it. But I do think that this one is going to be one that's tricky to be practical for me. Whilst I want to be okay with doing different things in different books, I'll see how practical this is and how much I like it when I'm doing it with books that I already own. Other method is the method that I talked about making videos about, and that is keeping a reading journal. There are various different ways to do this. Some are more bullet journal style, but I talked about when I was setting up my reading journal why I personally struggle with bullet journal styles. I love doing the setup and then I don't follow through, and it's a lot of work to keep up every single month. So for me, I'm just going to be writing the title, the date started, and then all of my notes, all of my thoughts as I go along, and then the date finished. The one thing I see being an issue with this is, first of all, that I've struggled to do this in the past, so that's not a great track record, but also I tend to read multiple books at once, but I will want them to be separated, so I'll have to see how I go about sorting that out. And then the other two note-taking methods are digital. So much like with the physical annotations in books, I can also do that in ebooks. So I have my tablet here, and so that's going to be very similar to doing it physically, except that it's going to be obviously typing notes and digital highlighting. So we'll see how that goes. The thing that I think will be my foible with this is that I don't read that many ebooks. So it's only possible with a small percentage of my reading. Like if I put my Storygraph medium pie chart here, you will see that digital is only 5% of my reading so far this year. So it's less useful. Mentioning the Storygraph, that is the other way that I will do this. So Storygraph is an app that is much like Goodreads but not owned by Amazon, and also does a lot more with charts and graphs, like it's in the name and I showed you that picture, and data collection in that way, which I find really useful. Some things about it I don't like as much, but I have been using it to track my reading for the past 2 years, and I will keep doing that. But it also has this reading journal option, where you can go, let me screen record and I'll show it to you, and whatever book you're currently reading you can add a note. And so then it will ask you what date it is, how far percentage you are in, and the note. So you can just keep that, type that up to store notes whilst you are reading. So that is digitally, which will have fewer of the foibles of some of the physical ones, but we'll see how well the app interface works, and I will get back to you. So the reason that I want to do this experiment, I've tried to do reading journals before, and part of that I think is kind of just a romantic idea about what a reading journal is and what kind of cool person annotates their books, but a lot of it is because I'm now doing this and I'm talking to you about books and I'm reviewing them all the time, and I find myself stumped at the end of the month when I read a book at the beginning trying to do a wrap up. I find that there are things that I don't have enough thoughts, and I really wish that I did, and I'm trying to do this in order to improve my reviews, because whilst I don't do standalone reviews on this channel, I do wrap-ups, and I do wrap-ups of vlogs when I'm doing them, and I want to have something to say that feels like worthwhile, that is giving you some information, rather than just sort of a vague, I liked it, I didn't like it. So that's why I want to take notes, so that I'm storing this information somewhere that I can go back to, refresh my memory, see how I felt and how it changed, and also when you write things down on paper, you remember things better. There is research to suggest that writing things down really helps us to remember things physically as well, more so than text. Though I don't know if I'm gonna argue with that. But anyway, so that is why I want to do this. I want to see if it improves my reviews. so it's been a while. I had plans to make this very organised when I was talking about annotation. I can't even remember if I filmed the intro to this yet. Anyway, so that's how unorganised I am being. I had a reading slump, things got a bit messed up, but I thought I would do a little check-in. So I have been doing all forms of annotation at once, all forms of note-taking at once. I've kind of done it book by book rather than week by week, which was my original plan. I have done annotations on the ebooks themselves, highlighting and making notes. So far my thoughts are I don't think enough for annotation to be worth it. I don't know if it's because none of the books that I am note-taking on have I got further than 50% on yet. So maybe I'm the sort of person where more of my thoughts would come in later on in the book. So towards the end of the book, maybe I would have more things to say, more notes to take. The one that I have liked the most so far though, the one that I really enjoy, is annotating on ebooks. And I think I'm a very digitally organised person. I'm a person with folders for everything and everything in its place digitally, and my phone's very organised and my iPad's very organised, everything's organised when it comes to digital stuff. But in real life I'm a mess, like nothing is organised at all, nothing has a place to live and I can never find anything. And I think that's because when you organise something digitally, it stays in its place. And also when you make a mistake digitally, very easy to undo. And so I think that that is why making notes on ebooks, as I have been, has been so much more enjoyable for me. It feels much more immediate than having to stop and write it down. Particularly, I think, because the one that I started with was poetry. I think that poetry really lends itself to being organised in this way. So I've taken loads of notes for that, and it felt really intuitive, it felt really easy to do. The main problem is I don't read a lot of ebooks, and also this is just poetry, so I don't know how it compares to when I'm reading like a novel. I haven't read a non-fiction yet this month that I've made notes on, so I will have to come back and see if maybe it's more of a poetry and non-fiction thing for me and doesn't really work for novels. I don't know, but that's my update so far. I have been sick recently, not doing so well, and I was also watching a lot of Netflix in bed. So my boyfriend got me this arm thing which clips onto the side of the bed, and then you can like bend it to be in whatever position is easiest for you, twist it, etc. But it has been very helpful for this note-taking. So I am annotating again. I enjoy annotating on an ebook because it's so immediate, and because I can highlight and I can make notes and do things straight away, which I think is what a lot of people like about annotating in a physical book. I think that with the iPad or Kindle or on my phone, all of the same books are on all of the devices, and the note-taking stays on all of the devices, and I don't lose my phone and I don't take my iPad anywhere, so it's much easier for me. The only downside of that is that ebooks give me migraines. Not always, but they can do, and I can't read them for a huge stretch of time, so I can't like completely cross over to the ebook way of life. I have done annotating the book. See that? Sort of started some annotations in there. This is something that I think is not particularly practical for me because I don't read a lot of physical books I already own. That's not the big major proportion of my books, so it's not something that I can do most of the time. I'm going to keep trying, but I think this is the only book this month that I can actually do it in, so it's not necessarily going to be that useful for me. I wanted to try it out because it is a popular way of doing it, but it's not practical. So I have done taking notes in a journal. Like, I've been reading Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. I am just over 100 pages in. This is as much as I've written. In 100 pages I've written this much. I feel like maybe the reason that note-taking has never stuck is because I don't have enough things to like verbally thought through enough to make a note of. They're more like feelings, and I have to try and put them into thoughts when I'm reviewing. And I'm hoping that doing this will make that easier, because I will be actually actively putting things into thoughts. But one of the things I noticed with all of the videos, which are linked in the description where there's a playlist of them, is that people talked about how they take notes, but they didn't really talk about what they take notes on or why they take notes. And that's kind of where I'm feeling stuck, is what parts of it do I actually need to take down. This was always my problem in uni as well. When I was like taking notes from textbooks, I would just be taking the whole thing basically, because I was like, well, is all of it important? So I would end up with like 10,000 words of notes for a 2,000 word essay. Also, a lot of people were talking about non-fiction, and I think that's very different from fiction. So yeah, I'm trying to work out, at the moment, the beginning of this is working out what to take notes of, and so far I've just been writing down thoughts that come into my head that are related to the book, not just all of my thoughts, but there aren't that many of them. I would say that, so taking notes in a journal, I found the most frustrating, the most likely to stop me reading, because I need so much accoutrement. And actually, it's not just that one, it's also taking notes in the book. The practicality of this, I feel like it stops me reading a lot, because I'm just thinking of how much work I'm going to have to do, and I really want to improve my reviews this year. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this, is that I want to feel like my reviews say something and they give you more information. All of my thoughts and feelings from the beginning of the book make it into my reviews, as well as what I thought by the time I'd finished it. And so that's why I'm making notes. But like I said, it seems like in the beginning of these books at least, I don't have as much to say, and it is kind of slowing me down and stopping me reading, because it becomes more of a chore. Like, I'm not just reading for fun, and I'm not just, when I'm reading, I'm not just reading, I also have to be like, okay, where's my journal? Where's my pen? Can I be in a position where I can do that? Because I can't take this in the bath, for example, because the water and paper, not a good combination, even if it's just water vapor. It making it easier for me to procrastinate, because there's more to procrastinate, more work to be done. Speaking of being chaotic, that's one of the reasons that journaling in a journal has also proved to be tricky for me so far. There it is. I literally thought I didn't have it near me, so I couldn't show you, but it is here. It's just in a weird place. For disability visibility, I took loads of notes, and I found that disability visibility was non-fiction, and as I mentioned when I was taking notes on Unsettled Ground, I thought that non-fiction might be easier for me to take notes on, because there are things I want to remember, like facts and things. But actually for disability visibility, I found it was much closer to personal journaling than taking notes in that fact-based way that I thought it would have been. And I think that's because, as a disabled person, there was so much that I personally related to, and so that's what I was writing down. So I guess my thoughts and feelings are probably the most important things for me to write down, but maybe some of the plot would be good. Names, I'm terrible at remembering names of people, but that doesn't seem essential at the time, because obviously I know exactly what their names are during, it's just afterwards. But the other thing about this is that, I don't know if you can see that, but the last time I was writing in this was in the bath, and my hand got damp. Not properly wet, I dried it and everything, but still it was a bit damp, the air was damp, my hand got stuck to the page, some of the writings run a bit, and these pages were a little stuck together when I just picked this up. So again, not always practical, especially like on trains, or like when I'm listening on a walk. Impossible to write down in my journal what I'm thinking of the book as I'm reading it. So yeah, I'm not sure this one is going to stick with me, whereas the ebook annotations I do think is something that I could continue into the future. And I have also been listening to the audiobook of Transcending Kingdom, and this one I have been using Storygraph's note-taking feature, where I have taken notes for that. Storygraph, using that note-taking feature, I don't mind as much, because I always have my phone with me, although it is, I guess, easier to get distracted and go on something else while you're on your phone, but I don't know, that doesn't really bother me, because if I'm going to get distracted, I'm going to get distracted. So I don't really think I can blame the note-taking for that. What I would say is that you have to be online, you have to be connected to the internet, and whilst that is fine most of the time, yesterday I was getting the train to London, and I was in tunnels, and I was underground, and I couldn't connect. So I'd have to think of another way. And it feels weird to be like, oh, I'll take the notes in the note app on my phone and then later upload them, because will I upload them later? Who knows? I feel like what I'm discovering is that I am a very disorganized person. Hello, so now it's time to wrap up this note-taking vlog. There are some things that I don't think I mentioned so far. One of them was that I read on a train. I went into London to go for lunch with my mum for her birthday, and I was reading on a train, trying to take notes in my journal for that, and this was really, really difficult. Sometimes there are tray tables and you can sit down and do that, but it was super busy that day I went into London. I was actually quite startled, and there wasn't the space or the ability for me to do so. And also it's quite cumbersome when you've got like things to sort yourself out in a way that means that you can write, particularly when it's a shorter train journey. It's not like I was on a 3-hour train journey and could spread out. I would have to be ready to pack all my stuff back up and get off and leave the train. So it doesn't always seem to be practical for me, and that's my main issue with the reading journal. Now, you may notice that this is not actually the reading journal that I used during the course of this vlog, and that shows you my major problem with this. As a chaos pixie, I cannot keep hold of things. I don't know where that journal has gone. I did only do a cursory search. I'm sure if I'd spent more time doing it, I would have been able to find it, but I'm currently in the midst of a flare-up which is affecting my mobility, so I didn't do that. I just brought a representative along, and yeah, so for me it is too cumbersome to expect me to be writing in my journal all the time for myself, and I need to just admit that, because I want to be the kind of person who has a reading journal, but for me it requires you to keep hold of the thing, it requires you to have a pen, it requires you to be in a situation where you can sit down and read, so you're not on a train, you're not in a bath, both of the times that I struggled with this situation, you're not even in bed without a desk, or without you're not like lying down, because I can't write lying down, I don't know about you. So it's a restrictive way of reading, and like I said earlier in the vlog, it put me off reading at some points because it made it a whole production, and I don't want to make it a production, I just want to take notes. For me, this wasn't practical. Now, like I said at the beginning, writing things down physically is supposed to help you remember things more, and I'm not sure how if that really worked. It's really how I felt. You would have to see my reviews of Unsettled Ground and Disability Visibility, because I think those were the only ones that I did a proper job of writing down all the notes for, because I was also writing down for The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but I DNF'd that book, so I don't know if it doesn't have my completed thoughts. So I'm not sure if it made me remember the books more than other books. Disability Visibility, definitely, and I'm wondering whether note-taking, for me, is a better practice with non-fiction. In terms of the annotation of physical books, like I said, I've just started reading Dr. Zhivago, and I've started putting tabbies in, because I know that that is a popular way that people do it. I wish that people would explain more how they go about doing these things in the vlogs. So I have chosen 2 themes. We've got weather and we've got God, which are 2 themes, and I'm putting tabs in when those things turn up. But I don't know, because that's one of the things that I've heard people talk about. I don't know how useful that is going to be for me in terms of reviewing. It's not really giving any of my thoughts or opinions or any thoughts that come up. It's just sort of being aware of themes, and I don't know if that's super important to me when it comes to reviewing books. I'm not writing an essay, and so I'm not sure that that is something that I would continue with necessarily. And I did also start taking annotations in Duck Feet, and the reason that there's so few of these is because I don't read a lot of physical books that I own, as I said, and that is a prerequisite for taking notes in a book. DNF Duck Feet, and I've only just started this, so it's not something that I have hugely had experience with. So that's to say probably it's something that I would need to do more of, because I didn't want to change the way I was reading, like persevere in reading a book I wasn't super enjoying just so that I could keep doing this note taking. And because I read so few physical books I own, I don't think that this one really works for me. Just putting tabbies in isn't helping. Now, when I did book group, I used to post-it note and write my notes on it and stick that in the book, and I do think that that would be something that I could try doing again. But again, I think I wouldn't want to do it in library books because I'd have to take them all out, but then maybe that would be good and I could have somewhere I could store them and keep memories. But it's like, would I go back to them? These are the thoughts that I have been having. This is very much an unformed vlog. I'm not coming to any conclusions here, just talking about my thoughts. So then the one that I really did like was annotating digitally. I mentioned it throughout the vlog. I really enjoyed annotating digitally. I think that it works for me because it's so immediate, but it doesn't require any more than the ebook itself. But it doesn't work for me because I've been trying to read 3 ebooks this week, which I haven't really talked about in this vlog. Poetry, and then I also have been reading a proof of The Key in the Lock, and I've been reading What the Willow Says, and I've been annotating them all digitally. And well, no, I haven't, because The Key in the Lock is a proof and there's no way to do it on NetGalley to take notes like that. The thing that I have been noticing is that ebooks give me a migraine and I can only read them for a short period of time. And so whilst this has been my favourite way to take notes, definitely because it's so automatically organised, very easy to go back and find, and it doesn't require more work from me. It is all like set up and ready to go. It's the medium that I least like for reading books. And I know there is ways to do like bookmarks in audiobooks and stuff as well, but a lot of the time when I'm reading audiobooks, I'm not sat down, I'm wandering around, I'm doing chores, I'm in the back at work. And so I am not really capable of doing that at the same time. That's the whole thing about note taking, is that it's not really conducive for moving around and for being active whilst reading. It is definitely a you must be in one place kind of a thing, except for with the ebooks. I feel like I can do it on the train. So the final way I did it was Storygraph, and I would have thought that since taking notes on my ebook works so well for me, Storygraph would be a similar way to do it. It did take me out of the book more than taking notes on ebook, because it's not literally on the book, I have to go into a separate app. I didn't find myself getting distracted though, and I didn't mind that, and I like the way that it tells you how far through the book you are whilst you're leaving those notes. I don't know, it takes me out of the reading experience having to go and make the notes. Possibly what I should start doing in future is read a bit, when I've come to the finish of reading, then leave some time to like think and journal and put those notes in. But I love the immediacy of doing it on ebooks. So the conclusion I've come to is no conclusion at all, except that anything that involves me needing something other than the book I'm reading is not going to work for me. So I'm not going to be annotating, and I'm not going to be using a physical reading journal because they're just not working. Now, having my phone is something that I do tend to have, so that doesn't feel like as separate from the book, if that makes any sense, particularly because if I listen to audiobooks, they're on my phone anyway, and ebooks are on my phone anyway, so it doesn't feel so odd for me to have my phone there. I would love to know if there are any methods of note-taking that I didn't try that you think might work for me, bearing in mind that I am chaos. It needs to be something that works for my chaotic mind. Now, at the beginning, I was talking about how I wanted to take notes because I wanted to improve my reviews. And do I think that this has improved my reviews? I'm not sure. I think that one of the things that I often do, I'm going to reveal something a bit weird about myself now, is that I think about talking to the camera before I'm talking, whilst I'm reading the book. I think about what things I'm going to say. And those are the things that I ended up noting down. Like, I imagine doing this and I talk it through out loud in my head and I rephrase things. I don't write it down, I don't write any scripts, but I do think about things like that. Those were the things that I was writing down. Now, do I think that it helped me remember some of those? Possibly, and I definitely referred back, but I also feel like I was referring back more as a crutch sometimes, and I would have remembered it better had I not referred back. It's like how people in an oral tradition can remember huge reams of stories, and then as soon as they start writing things down, can't remember as much. I think that maybe I remember my feelings better when I'm not writing them down. So yeah, I don't know. I felt like I was still quite at a loss in my reviews this month, and I don't think that they were as well thought through as I would have liked them to be. But I don't know if that is also because I've had a bad reading month this month and I haven't loved any of the books and I have been struggling with reading. So it's hard for me to make a differentiation between those things. I would love to know in the comments what you think, if there is a way of journaling that you think would possibly be helpful for me. I might continue with trying to use the Storygraph in some respects. I don't know if I really feel that drawn to it. Do you think that it helps with reviews if someone's written notes? Do you think you can tell the difference? I'd love to hear what you have to say, particularly on this topic, because I think that it's one where I really need some input. I'm not feeling that confident about this whole experiment. That's what it was, an experiment, and I think it was interesting to do. I think it was a bad month to pick to do it, but I think it definitely had got me thinking. So let me know what you think, because I definitely would like to discuss this more in the comments. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. I put out new videos twice a week, so I will see you again very soon, and thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you have anything to say, if you would leave it in the comments, and I will see you again very soon. Bye bye!